Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the two-man game here on Claibs Online. That's Matt Rocchio. I'm Bob Ramsey. Glad you're with us today. And this is the time of year, Rock, where you think, well, automatically NBA playoffs begin. That's all we have to talk about, but not quite.
No, not quite. We've had slew stuff to talk about almost every episode, even really since the season ended, with a lot of the roster there, and no real slew news right now. I know Yuri Collins looks like he's got a little bit of an announcement coming for himself, maybe a little bit of a line of clothing, maybe some NIL things going that he put up on Twitter this morning. But today I just want to touch on really quickly the fact that Mizzou's gotten a complete facelift since really the last time we talked about them at the end of the season. Dennis Gates has brought in some new coaches. Obviously, he got a lot of pub for bringing in Dickie Nutt, mainly because that's the coolest name I've ever heard in my entire life for a coach, and all power to you, my good man. But he was able to bring another coach from Florida State. Who had been there for a while with him, and now we've seen the transfer commitments of guys like Sean East. They've been able to get the recommitment of guys like Aiden Shaw, and so just a complete turnover really in the roster that you didn't really expect. Noah Carter, a guy that we talked about a lot of, a couple weeks ago when he was at Northern Iowa playing against St. Louis in the NIT. So they bring in a guy like Noah Carter who, kind of changes their front court and gives them a much more veteran element than we have seen. So, getting some of these guys like again, East, the number 2 JUCO transfer prospect on a lot of people's lists. So getting these kind of players and rounding out a roster that really didn't have any direction as you were going towards the end of the season, it's just been a very impressive start for Dennis Gates.
Yeah, Conzo Martin, and I think, and I don't want to, relive the Martin era, because the Gates era is on its own and off to a running start. But I think it's clear if we look back that Coach Martin wasn't able to maximize the transfer portal. And he, for those lost and those brought in, it was a big deficit, and they never really got it going. Coach Gates, at least on paper, looks like the players he's bringing in and or keeping will give him a little bit of a head start, again, relative to the previous regime.
Yeah, it's been a complete turnaround. And actually, you might have seen a little bit of Sean East because he played both at UMass and Bradley before he went the JUCO route at John A. Logan College and really blew up. So that's been impressive. They already got Trey Gamillion, who came in from Colorado State, kind of a really good player there.
Yep.
So they've really changed both the front court and the back court. Mohamed Diarra right now is really the only big guy. There was actually kind of funny. Brandon Kiley put out a tweet of the roster, and Mohamed Diarra, he had him listed as a center. Diarra retweeted him saying, "Oh, since when am I a center?" And it's like, well, you're 6'10" and 215, and no one else on the roster is. So I'm sorry, my big man, you're a center.
Okay, you're a wing. Okay, our mistake. You're a wing player. Now go guard that guy under the basket.
Yeah. You're the wing player. Hey, you're the tallest. Please go sit under the hoop right now. Also, I'm kind of okay with them only having one center, because if that happens, I'm all for Noah Carter getting small 5 minutes. That's what he did at Northern Iowa. I absolutely love having that wrinkle in there. You don't see that a lot in SEC ball. I'd actually be okay with it. But just to have some positivity, some movement, again, getting a guy like Aiden Shaw to recommit, I think shows a lot from Dennis Gates early. He's rounding out his coaching staff. The fact that he's been able to do a lot of this without a full coaching staff kind of speaks for itself as well. And again, we talked about him when he first got hired. I don't see somebody who's mired in the Leonard Hamilton kind of offensive game. I see somebody who's definitely going to branch out from that, and that's why I've been kind of positive about Gates from the start. And so far, he's backed it up with exactly how you have to attack the game right now. And this is one of the weird things with the transfer portal, where if you're a good enough coach and you have that drive, you almost can be in a better position than you ever could have been back in the day, because now you can, and I know East.
You hit a reset button.
Yeah, I know East is a JUCO guy, so he doesn't necessarily count. But nonetheless, all these other, having this ability to have these guys move around and even be able to show other guys like an Aiden Shaw, no, you want to be here. Yeah. And give him that kind of confidence. Again, I just think it's the best start you could have hoped for, considering where Mizzou was at the end of the season.
Young man from St. Charles County, as we real quick, Slew Point, Turnbull, um, Connor Turnbull decommitted uh, from Butler with that coaching change. As Thad Matta goes there, um, I tweeted out, I think it was yesterday, when he's revisiting schools,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it's this thing's lingered on a little bit. So I quoted the great Paul Giamatti from Cinderella Man, who said, "When a decision takes this long, somebody's going to get screwed."
Yeah, kind of feels like it. There's some nervous energy
Yeah,
around that story now, and it's kind of
yeah,
and that's the thing. But like I was just saying with Dennis Gates, Thad Matta had a chance to come in and kind of resell these guys, and so there's always a chance. And I think Travis has got a pretty good selling point, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who'd say the same about the other schools that are in on it.
yeah,
That's just
exactly
kind of
right.
that. Like I said, it's one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite movies. Sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you.
That's exactly right.
That's the game. So let's move on to a little bit of the pro ball. That is
Yeah,
kind of the flavor of the moment. We already have a game in the can today on Saturday. The Jazz were able to take down the Mavericks. They didn't really lead the game until late in the second quarter, and then from there they were able to kind of put their foot on the gas and take over. Because Donovan Mitchell just went off offensively, and despite only shooting the ball one time and getting 5 points, Rudy Gobert was extremely impressive defensively. I've been very critical of Rudy Gobert in the Utah Jazz, but he showed up today. And again, it's a game he should have showed up and dominated because Luka Doncic isn't playing right now because of that
I
calf
was just,
strain.
I was just going to say, um, they almost spotted a game,
Yeah.
spotted the Jazz a game with Doncic there. You mentioned how it wasn't late until the Jazz took the lead and took over. With Doncic there, that probably doesn't happen. So, if he can get back into game two, maybe they can get the series going again. But if it lingers for a couple of games, uh, that's as unfortunate a timing as health as you can get.
Yeah, the big problem for the Mavericks, other than getting Doncic back, is that Mitchell went off for 32, Bogdanovich went off for 26, and he was just beating them up, from deep and from, just he was just backing them down in the post and playing bully balls, kind of like that 6'8" kind of big guy that he is. But Doncic doesn't help them defensively. So how do you stop Donovan Mitchell and Bogdanovich, in the future? Yeah, I think Doncic will score a little bit more, and he'll put a little bit more pressure on Rudy Gobert, and I think he'll show some of the issues with Gobert's defense at times, or just in the playoffs, that is. But it's just not going to be enough. I think the Jazz are going to win this one. I think this is
Hmm.
spotting them a game certainly isn't going to help the Mavericks, but they just. Doncic doesn't help them defensively, and they just don't have anybody who can stop Mitchell, Bogdanovich, and Mike Conley. He had a down game, 13 points on 12 shots. That's not good. He's a super efficient player most of the time. He'll have a game where he slashes and dashes for 18 and 12, and they're not going to be able to account for that either. So I mean, it's going to be a fun series. It was a fun game even without Doncic, but if Doncic can get back healthy, it'll be more fun. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be more
Hmm.
competitive necessarily for the Mavericks.
Well, not so much fun in Memphis right now. If you're a Grizzlies fan, they're down 3 at the half to the Timberwolves. Um, I don't make too much out of the halftime score. Um, the Minnesota had a really impressive run early, and then a secondary run a little later. Um, but they're not that first 6, 8, 10 minutes of the game. They couldn't miss a shot. I just don't think that's going to happen consistently, and I think the Grizzlies will come back and win this.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just the players you expect to step up for each team. One of them is doing it more so than the other one. I mean, Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns are playing incredibly well right now. Karl Anthony
Yeah,
Towns is giving the effort on defense. He's blitzing screens hard, and with his athleticism and his size, John Morant and company are having a little bit more difficulty than they had during the regular season at any point because they didn't play a lot of 7-footers, and usually when they did, they weren't playing with the intensity you now see the Timberwolves are playing with. This is a team that, I think people I thought it was dumb the way that people criticized them for reacting to their win in the play-in tournament. I thought the play-in tournament was great, by the way. I thought the intensity we got from teams was exactly what you want to see. It was 3 nights of very, very
Yeah,
fun, watchable basketball. What else do you want?
yeah,
But people wanted to criticize them for reacting like they'd won a real playoff series. But this team wants it right now, and Karl Anthony Towns showed that in the first half with the way he's playing defense. And they got some big shots from Malik Beasley. He's one of the guys who's hitting a lot. And then the other side, John Morant's playing great and Dylan Brooks is playing great, but both Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. are struggling. And so when we talk about what's been propelling them through, yeah, Ja's been incredible, but he's always had two other guys. And when Ja wasn't there, they got Dylan Brooks back, and then it was all three of them. And so it is more of a collective effort. And right now the stars on the Timberwolves are carrying them through. That can get you through more playoff games, but I do think Memphis is going to be more talented. I saw a lot of people saying this was only going to be a five-game series. In fact, The Ringer, CBS Sports, and one other one I saw pretty much had all of them being 5-game series. I don't agree with that at all. I think at least this is a 6-game series for the Grizzlies. Maybe the Mavericks and Jazz because they already spotted them 1 game. But I mean, this one's going 6, I think, because the Timberwolves right now are playing great basketball. They're hitting shots. They're playing great defense. They've always had the athletes. And I mean, D'Angelo Russell, I mean, if you remember him from Ohio State, you remember him from the Lakers. He was a scorer, and he was not a very efficient one. And he wasn't a very good defender. This year, he's become one of the best point guard defenders in the league. And his combination with Karl Anthony Towns, if you watch this game, he's one of the reasons, along with a very annoying Pat Beverly,
yeah.
he's one of the reasons they've been able to kind of blitz at and cause Ja Morant and Desmond Bane not to be a little bit more uncomfortable. He's having a terrible game offensively, and in fact, they'd be up probably 6 or 7 if he was having a better game. But that's one thing that I think if you didn't watch a lot of Timberwolves, and I don't blame you for not watching a lot of the Timberwolves, and you're watching this game right now, you're coming away with saying Karl Anthony Towns is an incredible defender when he tries, Anthony Edwards is the next big thing, and oh my God, is that a different D'Angelo Russell than the one that played for the Lakers? Because this is a very different team than I think people expected, and they're showing that right now.
Let's move on. In Philadelphia, the Sixers will host the Raptors. Is this the are we laying down palm fronds in the street for the Sixers to ride all the way into the championship? Are they saying we're here to play, we're ready to go, look out, get out of the way, it's Sixers time?
I mean, I'm with Charles Barkley. This is James Harden's, like, this is his time to win or lose it, and the fans in Philly aren't going to let him off if he blows this one. So Harden's got to step up. His entire career has been defined by gaudy regular season numbers and bad losses in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Can he confound that now with a team around him, with Tyrese Maxey, maybe the most improved maybe the most improved player this year, with Joel Embiid, maybe the MVP this year, and with a team around them that has been built to win? Can he finally put it together and help them win? There's no question that Joel Embiid's going to have a big game, but against the Raptors, a team that that I keep talking about as a fun team because they got a bunch of crazy athletes who defend their ass off, and they have a great team, kind of chemistry where everyone is giving their effort. That's the worst thing for James Harden. And so, I mean, it just is. I mean, having guys consistently being able to come out. I mean, Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby can just that wing combination. If they will most likely try to isolate that and then try to trap him or get him those kind of looks, because no matter what he does, then one of those guys can slough off, play the easy guy, and the other one can cut off the drive. It's just they have so many weapons, and then Pascal Siakam's just kind of a wild card that Embiid might just completely snuff out. But again, there's so many other guys on Toronto that can be a problem. So that's going to be my big question. James Harden's got to step up.
Are we concerned about the Warriors against the Nuggets?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
The Nuggets have been preparing. There was a crazy stat where Jokic didn't know that Curry might not be playing. Because the Nuggets just didn't even they're like, we're not even going to put it in our mind that we can get away with a game without Curry. We're just going to completely plan like Curry's going to be playing. So I mean, Denver's locked in, and I think they can win some games. The Thompson, I didn't realize it was so little. I knew that, but I didn't realize the way it had broken down. They've played 8 minutes together, Thompson, Curry, and Draymond this year.
It's insane.
And so not having those guys at any point in the season to really play together, it's just you have to have that cohesion in the playoffs. Things tighten up. You can't be playing you can't be playing a loose kind of non-cohesive game where you're just kind of vibing and hoping the defense gives you easy looks, because that's just not going to be the way it is in the regular season. And I'll admit it's there in the regular season, especially when you have Stephen Curry making defenses just completely change what they're going to do. So if the Warriors aren't healthy, they're not the Warriors, and the Nuggets also aren't healthy, and they're not getting anybody back right now. I know there were some people who talked about Jamal Murray coming back. I don't think that's going to happen. So which team's going to be able to leg this one out? Which stars are healthy, and who's going to be bigger? Right now, I think Jokic is going to be able to steal 2 or 3. I think this one goes 6 or 7. Again, I'm not sure why people think this one's going to be easy for the Warriors. Maybe if Curry comes back healthy, it will be. But right now, I say this one goes a little bit tougher. I think we're going to look at 6 games, and I honestly don't know how far the Warriors go if they win this one.
Looking at tomorrow, Rock, I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat Hawks is one that does just go 5.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, the Heat are maybe the best team in the East. I mean, they are the best team in the East statistically. Maybe one of the best teams in the league, I should say. I would put it Phoenix, Memphis, Miami, Milwaukee. From the regular season. And again, it all changes as soon as you get here. It's just, I love that about the NHL and the NBA. It's just, throw everything out the door. It was a fun 5-6 months, but none of it matters. Now is when,
playing for real.
That was some piddly BS. Now it's now it's real, and everything gets turned on its head. So but we get Brooklyn and Boston, and that's the big one. Boston doesn't have Robert Williams III off the bat. That's going to completely change the dynamics. Can Marcus Smart hold back Kyrie from having a ridiculous game? That's number one. Can Jason Tatum, he's not going to outduel Kevin Durant, so that'd be a ridiculous thing to say. Can Jason Tatum kind of match up to Kevin Durant scoring-wise? That's point number 2. And then point number 3, can the rest of the Nets offense just completely overload a very good systematic defense from Boston? We saw what Bruce Brown was able to do kind of in that short role, just kind of killing Cleveland in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do if Jared Allen was there. So that's kind of my big question. There is no Robert Williams III, so that same look is going to be there again for the Nets. I have a feeling we're going to see them really get Boston going on that one. And then Jaylen Brown. We know that Jason Tatum's been there. He's had big games in the playoffs against LeBron James, but Jaylen Brown hasn't had the big offensive games as much in the playoffs. He's going to have to step up secondarily, because most likely if Jason Tatum gets going, Kevin Durant will then do what he does late in the fourth quarter of playoff games, where he starts really playing on defense, and then he's a velociraptor who can dribble a basketball.
Yeah, when you take a look at that, the Celtics got to go, wait a minute. We finished second. We got to play these guys?
Yeah.
We should have finished 4th or 5th.
Yeah, but Milwaukee tanked a game because they could, and now they get to play the Bulls, which will go probably 4 or 5. That's another one that goes 4 or 5, because there are a couple, because the next two we're going to talk about. I just don't think there's much chance for the Pelicans to beat the Suns, and I don't think there's much chance for the Bulls to beat the Bucks. If the Bulls were completely healthy and they weren't coming in off just a terrible streak to end the season, that would have been a very interesting matchup. In fact, it was looking like that might have been like a 3-4 matchup, really early on in the season. And so I just think we're about to see the reigning champs show us why they were the reigning champs last year. I still have a huge question mark on why a guy like Donte DiVincenzo was moved and what that means for their depth defensively throughout the rest of the playoffs. That question will not be answered in the first round, just because the Bulls aren't that team. But it's going to be something we're going to have to keep watching. Does Zach LaVine have a big game because Chris Middleton gets in foul trouble and Giannis is having to guard somebody else? And that's a big block right there where DiVincenzo would have been the guy. We'll see, but I just don't think we're going to get that question answered. But it's my biggest question mark, because he was such a big loss last year, and they didn't augment it, and they were still able to win without him. But you'd like to have it. And then, it's kind of like the Suns, who are going to slaughter the Pelicans, I have no doubt about that. They didn't have Dario Saric last year, and they lost the playoffs because DeAndre Ayton just couldn't. Every time DeAndre Ayton went to the bench, they would just get destroyed in the paint because they didn't have a backup center. Well, they went out and they got JaVale McGee and Bismack Biyombo, both who have done a very good job as backup fives, and then they got Torrey Craig back, and so they made all these moves to augment the back end in an important way that sometimes comes out. And the Bucks, in my opinion, didn't do that, and I can't wait to see how that affects them in the playoffs. And I'm mentioning it now despite the fact that it won't happen this week.
Yeah, I think you're right. So looks clearly the pick game of the day tomorrow is the Nets and the Celtics. Heck, that could be a conference final, and it would be the pick.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to sign off here. We got 30 minutes, and then we get, I think, probably the most entertaining game of today, which is going to be Raptors 76ers. And then, by the way, we get 4 games today, we get 4 games tomorrow, and then things break down weird. I think it's Denver and Golden State are the lucky. No, sorry, Minnesota and Memphis actually get 2 days off before their next game. So does Brooklyn and Boston. So, I mean, it's the little things, but just the TV scheduling make it so they can only do 3 games per night during the week, obviously. Boston gets an extra day. Does Robert Williams come back already for Game 2? Little things like scheduling like that could easily change the complexion of these rounds just because, injuries are still a factor. Robert Williams III, Luka Doncic, Stephen Curry. I mean, these are some big names that could come back or could be held out and could completely flip these series.
Very good. When we get back at it, we'll have some games under our belt as this weekend wraps up, and then we'll jump into it. And by then, we'll kind of see what trends we have going. See, obviously, watching the health is the very first trend, and then seeing who can play the best with the hand they're dealt, I think is going to be the key of the first round.
This is unbelievable. I'm looking over at the Grizzlies Timberwolves game, which is still going shot for shot. Anthony Edwards because they didn't make the playoffs last year. This is his first ever real playoff game, if you want to call it, and he's got 27 points on 16 shots. In 27 minutes. That's against one of the best defenses in the league in the Memphis Grizzlies. I love this, Anthony. If you don't know it, I've said it so many times. Just listen to me now, please. Google Anthony Edwards. Watch some videos. There's no one on the planet who's not getting, whose team isn't getting currently cooked by Anthony Edwards, who does not love Anthony Edwards. He's fantastic. And so turn on Grizzlies and Timberwolves. You got 2 of the best players in the league going at it right now.
Heroes are made in the postseason.
There it is.
Or on the 2-man game.
Here we go.
That'll wrap it up. You're my hero, Rocc.
Rammer, you're pushing through it. You did great job on the ESPN Plus softball. SLU, I know they only got 1 out of the 3 games they played over the last 2 games, but you did a killer job on it. You were solo on the broadcast. That's never easy. So great job. We loved hearing you. And how about that? You did 3 softball games and 2 podcasts in the last 36 hours. How about that? No, 28 hours.
3 podcasts.
3 podcasts. 3 podcasts and 3 softball games in just about 28 hours. Bob Ramsey, thank you, sir.
People are sick of hearing me.
Go to sleep.
I'll talk to you in a couple days. It's the 2-man game. That's Matt Rocc. I'm Bob Ramsey right here on Claibs Online. Have a great rest of your basketball weekend.
At St. Louis Acura, we have over 330 pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. And all of them are covered by our St. Louis Acura Promise and backed by our Better Business Bureau A+ rating and 30 years in business. We also service all makes and models of vehicles, including glass and bumper repair, paint touch-ups, and full mechanical services from one of our 24 technicians. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you, no matter what vehicle drives you.